Welcome to another episode in the podcast entitled What to Do in a Mental or Emotional Crisis and Where to Find Help. Now, in this series, we focus on teaching self-help techniques that anyone can use at any stage of a mental or emotional challenge, and we provide information on available resources, particularly free ones, for when you just can't do it on your own. I'm Michelle Russell. I'm an attorney, social activist, and for the purpose of this series, I call myself a pseudo mental health advocate. Now, if you want to know why the attorney is talking about mental health, I invite you to watch episode 1, in which I explain the reason for my passion. Now, today we will continue with our focus on the men. In our previous episode, we did part 1 of the interview with Fabian Sargeant, who is a social worker, but also the CEO and founder of Men Empowerment Network Support, which is a network just for men. It provides a support system just for men, a safe space just for men to support each other, to talk, and to help each other. So we're going to go straight into part 2 of that interview. I'm going to go a little bit deeper with it now, with this concept of manhood. And I'm going to play an audio for you, which I found very interesting from a member of the public. And then I want to address the suicides.
Sure.
So let me play.
Mothers is raising boys too soft. They don't let them do no chores anymore. So when they're back against the wall, then turn to somebody to comfort them and to get them where they want. And certain things, you get them where you want, it's going to be something that's going to embarrass you in the future. So when that time comes, you don't got no choice because you can't deal with the pressure of decision you make, of choices you make. And
so what do you think is a solution? Put boys to the chores and you think chores will stop depression?
No, chores will stop depression, but you would raise with the mentality that you got to work for what you want in this life. A lot of us want things to be easy, and nothing easy in life.
So you think that might be part of the problem why some men give up?
Yes, I believe so. Because a lot of men ain't men anymore.
And how do you define a man?
A man take responsibility. A lot of men do not take responsibility.
You mean financially or for their actions? What do you mean?
Financially, mentally, physically, emotionally. Men don't know how to be men because the system just in encouraging men to be men anymore. The system taking whatever people decide they are and use it as that.
So that touched about 2 or 3 things. One, this concept of mothers raising men too soft. This concept of not a real man. And this concept of not taking responsibility. What would you say to that?
I would say that I agree to a large extent of what he's saying.
You do?
I'll explain why. The whole concept of responsibility. I do believe that a lot of, I'm telling you this against the backdrop of not only working with men, but also working with young boys in Barbados. In my professional day-to-day life, I work in the Ministry of Youth. So I've worked with young men over the last 20 years professionally, and then outside of that in my charity. So I can give you a real good example. A real good picture of what I'm saying. I am talking thousands of young men. So I've seen a case where a lot of these young men, as this guy was saying, they're not given chores from. That is where it really starts. Responsibility, you just don't wake up one morning and you say, oh, I'm going to be a responsible person. It's a developmental process, and responsibility is really manifested in a major way where men become fathers. Okay, and that is where you really see that whole concept of responsibility showing itself or raising its head. So as I said, it starts from boyhood.
So that if you have those mothers who are constantly cooking and cleaning up behind and washing their
Correct.
And sometimes mothers do these things because they think it's an act of love, but you're saying it's a disservice.
Yes, it is. They're not giving the boys the space to really develop themselves and develop the skills necessary for them to survive independently in the world. And I'm saying independently because that is where it starts. If you cannot function independently, it's going to be difficult for you to function with another person. And again, back to the same self-awareness. But if you are saying mothers, okay, but if parents, because sometimes some fathers are guilty of it too, but if parents are guilty of not allowing their children to have responsibility. It starts as much as I said, for me, my son, my 11-year-old son, he has to make up his bed every morning without fail. You're not leaving the house. You're not doing anything until that is your responsibility. That is your room. You have to tidy it. You have to keep it clean. And my son would tell you every day, some days you get up, you're a bit reluctant. You come out and you leave it and they peeping, back in there. You can deal with it. And they belong to you. Sort it out. Then he has to come out. He has to make sure the house is tidy. If time permits, he would assist in the kitchen and get the wares washed. He takes out the garbage every day. Every day like clockwork, he has to do chores. He has responsibilities in my house. And he has to live up to them. And I always tell him, listen to me, it may be difficult for you now. You may be a bit annoyed now, but I'm telling you, a bit later you're going to say, well, thanks to daddy, thanks to mommy, that I can do X, I can do Y. Mommy.
But even in this concept of manhood, and when you're teaching him to be able to be independent, do you hug your son? Do you kiss him? Do you hold his hand?
And you have to show affection. Yes. You have to show affection.
Is this softness? Because the person said there isn't too soft. What's soft?
So let me give a real something that I'm here like to really be genuine and bring my experiences.
Right.
And this is where now we as men have been socialized and where we go wrong. Understand? Yes, it is you want to take your children, but you go wrong because of our socialization, right? I have a 5-year-old son. And about a year ago, could be 2 years ago, I saw my son, he had some beers, some teddy bears on his bed.
Right, the right kind of beers.
They were
alcoholic.
Teddy bears, Puppy and Scout, these beers that I have now. And I saw my son on the bed, dressing the bear, and putting on a pump on the bear. So, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because he treated the bears like how girls would treat dollies.
Yes.
And I showed at him at that point in time because I was like, oh, there are dollies in this place. But then after I really sat and thought about it. And I was like, you know what? Feeling an easy person. I bathe him.
There you go.
I dress him. I feed him. So he was just doing what he saw daddy doing to him.
There you go.
And I was wrong for that. But I thought it necessary that I must demonstrate that sense of responsibility, and I try to be an example for my sons to see, and that's what I want men to be. Because
so that softness has nothing to do with affection. Softness is the absence of responsibility.
Exactly.
So that we need to teach our men to feel their emotions, to be affectionate, to look after babies. So it's okay to put on a pamper on a puppy,
exactly,
a puppy doll thing.
It's okay.
But we don't want men who cannot live independently.
Exactly.
Got you.
There you go. And you talk about affection. My 11-year-old son yesterday come and give me a kiss. He gives me a kiss every single night.
Oh, that's sweet.
Every night he comes and now that he's developing the muscles and he get big. I tell him I hope 3 years. I tell him I hope 3 years from now he's still getting these good night kiss.
It's good that you're encouraging. You're not saying that it's okay as a child, but as a big man don't hug father, big man don't kiss. That's why I said we have to change this concept of manliness and manhood. Because it's doing our men a disservice, which is where we're now going to go into this whole suicide thing.
Yeah.
Now, I was looking at the stats. I had asked to see all the articles over the last 2 years of the suicide rates. And between 2021 and 2022, there have been 12 suicides. Mm-hmm. There were 4 in 2021, and there have been 8 in 2022. So reported suicides for the 8 months of this year, and out of all of them, only one was a woman. So that our men are in crisis because you cannot be having, and it's not quite 1 suicide per month. It hasn't been that way, but it's really 8 for the year. And like Fabian rightly said, reported, because I know in that period of 3 other suicides that did not appear in
I know of some as well. 3
of whom were my personal friends, and it caught me to the court. It's actually where I first saw this quote when the first one left us. I try to say these things delicately. I remember scrolling through his Facebook page, wondering if I'd missed the signs. And I did notice that he had up this quote that said, people don't fake depression, they fake being okay. And I couldn't get that out of my head, especially with men who like to suffer in silence, as you said. What do you think is responsible about this increase in suicides over the last 2 years, and particularly this year, among the men?
COVID-19 has done us a real serious injustice. And what it has done, it has magnified the stress associated with our whole social environment. There have been increased unemployment. There have been tremendous dislocation or I guess a lot of issues in families and households. Remember, during lockdown, you were forced to remain in a house.
Yes.
And there are people, sometimes you have 3 bedrooms and people got to sleep on the ground and so forth. You're saying you have to stay in that house. But staying in that house doesn't mean that you have your own space, your own bedroom. And usually there's a lot of quarreling, of bickering, of frustration. And then there are people who are not contributing financially to the house, especially young men. Then that became big issues. So you're a big man, you should be able to put towards the food you want.
Again, the concept of manliness.
Exactly. You want to come and take food and eat in the house, you're not contributing. And then relationships break down, and I mean intimate relationships. So you have persons can't go and visit the girlfriend as they used to, or spend time at the girlfriend house to escape their house. You have to confront your own. And a lot of things were happening. Then there was sickness. People were afraid. People didn't know how to cope with this whole COVID environment. So it really pushed people in a particular direction where they couldn't lack the necessary coping skills to deal with the stressors of life, And then people generally not taking mental health seriously, or even understanding issues associated with mental illness. A lot of that created an environment that was not really, I guess, the best for those individuals who were not that mentally strong. Not everybody has the strength that you would really like, and support is critical.
I want to reframe that, because I feel like sometimes when we frame it as whether you're strong or weak, it is its own form of condemnation that can increase depression. But I remember years ago, a therapist told me it's like a glass. The more you pour in is the more full the glass gets. And after a while, it just cannot hold anymore. So that it becomes less about strength or weakness and more about just so much on your plate and you haven't had time to pour some out the glass.
I should not only say strength, but it also boils down to the ability for that person to feel comfortable to share, or even have that avenue or person that they can let loose or let go or pour from that cup, that cup that is filling up. And the fact that there's not been a lot of that in this environment. People just like balloon, they keep in and they keep filling up and filling up and filling up, till eventually they reach that state of hopelessness where they're saying, I really can't handle this anymore. There's no reason for me being here. And where we sit and we say, we agree, well, that is not the way. You should be able to find a space to let go and speak and talk and share. Some people just believe, well, look, I can't. They don't have that space. That emotional, I guess, that emotional containment where there's a balance between your thoughts and your emotions. Sometimes you get so overwhelmed with emotion that you're not able to think straight and you make decisions. And then when you do make those decisions, you say, but oh Lord, if I had thought about it a little more, and it can happen the other way around, because you can overthink a situation and be less emotionally connected to it, and then that can also bring an equal result. So really,
one of the people I interviewed, one of the men actually said he thinks a lot of men who commit suicide, it's shame about decisions they've made, shame about consequences of those decisions or being found out about those decisions. Do you think shame plays a role in it?
So there are many things that can play a role in suicide, and no one particular. Well, yes, shame may be it for one other person.
Because you said men are very proud.
Shame.
You can't
can
family.
But there's no. What we need to understand that there's no one brush you can paint the whole suicide picture with, and there are many different reasons why people may feel as if they want to commit suicide. So I wouldn't. Well, shame. Yes, you can look at shame. Another could be just frustration, and and if you could go on and on and on, but it boils down to how that particular individual perceives the situation, how they internalize it, and how they see the escape route.
So let's talk about that then. As a final question, I wanted to play something from a barber for you, but how do we help them? If someone is watching this now and is at that point of there's no point in trying anymore, what do you tell them? What advice would you give? And I want actual tangible techniques.
So let me just approach this from this angle. Rather than speak to the person directly, I just want to also mention the fact that the social environment, that supportive environment, is extremely important. Because as you mentioned, you saw your friends cry for help on social media. I find in recent times a lot of people reach out to me and say, Fabian, I have a friend who posted this person's crying out, can you reach out? So we need persons to be a lot more aware of who's around them and be connected to those individuals. So if you see something that's a bit off, that is not the norm,
right,
don't just let it pass, but have a conversation with that person. If you are not the right person for that conversation, find someone else that can have that conversation, or try to lead that person to a place where you can get assistance for them. To the person out there that is feeling extremely hopeless, I want them to know that there's a reason for you being here, there's a purpose for you being here, and reach out.
Reach out to who?
Reach out to the closest, I'm saying closest because it's not always family. It is not always a girlfriend or a husband or a boyfriend or wife. I want to say it doesn't even have to be somebody in the church. There's always that person that you will feel like if this one person would at least listen to me and give me an ear. And so that's why I try to be cautious in the words and not say reach out to a family member or a friend. Reach out to that one person. That person may be someone that you don't see, that you don't usually see on a regular basis. But you know that if you say, well, I have this issue, this person would give you the ear and listen. We have our men's organization. The number is 826-0615.
Say that again.
We have our Men Empowerment Network Support Organization. You can reach out 826-0615. Then there are a lot of other NGOs across Barbados. Is a crisis center. They also have a hotline. I can't remember the hotline.
I didn't know that. Crisis center?
They have the crisis center, which is operated by the Business and Professional Women's Club. If you Google it, the hotlines come up. I know last year, CASA, which is also another NGO, their function, where they do a lot of counseling for addiction. They would have launched a hotline last year, CASA, CASA. Then you can Google it. I don't have the numbers on top of my head.
We will put it at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, so it's CASA. You have the Business and Professional Women's Club Crisis Hotline. While men's does not have a hotline per se, we do have counselors that you can refer you to.
Right.
Then that number again is 826-0615. Then there's the and then there are other organizations, private organizations that offer counseling if necessary. So there are resources. It's just that sometimes in relation to men, is that when these resources are there, they don't reach out. And that is where we really got to try to get men reaching out for the available resources and being able to accept when they need help.
Fabian, thank you so much for being with us today. You shared a wealth of knowledge. More importantly, actual steps and techniques that you can take. If you are a man and you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling a bit of despair, reach out to other men. If you're more comfortable with women, reach out to a woman you feel you can trust.
Yes.
And then there are the hotlines. There's a number for the men's network. I'm saying it wrong, he's going to kill me, but the point is it's not always hopeless. It's not always hopeless, and we need to save our men. The aim of this podcast, these episodes, is to let you know there is somewhere else. So watch this over if you need to, share it if you need to. Remember this face. Go on social media, Google MENS, go to the Men's Talk, and let us help our men. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.